Hello everyone, I'm here to present a tutorial on creating topography in Revit 2024. As you know, when Massing and Site tab has undergone significant changes in the topography section in version 2024 compared to previous versions. Notably, when building pad, split surface, and merged surface tools that existed in previous versions have been replaced by the Toposolid tool in this version, and we can access these tools in other ways. To put it simply, Toposolid is similar to the floor tool in previous versions of Revit. In previous versions, to draw a floor, we would click on the floor option. We would then have access to a set of drawing tools that we could use to draw any floor with any shape we wanted. In Revit 2024, clicking on the Toposolid option gives you access to all the same tools as the floor tool. In previous versions, we would draw a floor and click Finish. As you know, in previous versions of Revit, we used the Modify Sub-Element tool to create slopes and curvatures on our floors and roofs. The same thing happens in Revit 2024. When you design a floor with the desired dimensions and click Finish, the Modify Sub-Element tools are immediately available to you. Now, to slope the topography, you can go to the 3D view and select the topography. Click on Modify Sub-Element. As you can see, as soon as you click on any of the points or lines, you will have two arrows and the numeric indicator at your disposal. You can click on the numeric indicator, enter height value, for example 2 meters, and press Enter to create a slope from the 0 point. To change the slope to variable value, you can click on the points and change their value to, for example, 3.5. If you need to add new points to your topography surface in addition to the existing ones, you can use the Add Point option. Click on Add Point. You will be given two options, Along Surface and Absolute. Along Surface creates new points based on the slope of the surface at different points. Absolute adds new points relative to the zero origin of the topography. I select Along Surface here. I click here. As you can see, it connects slopes to different points of the topographic surface relative to these points. If I select Absolute here and click here, as you can see, it lowers your topographic surface to the point where it reaches zero origin and adds a new point relative to other points. Before clicking on the surface, you can also specify its elevation in the elevation section. For example, I select Along Surface. In the elevation base section, I choose which level I want to add the point to. For example, I want to create it in the current level, or in the project base point, or in the survey point, or relative to the internal origin, or the 00 point of the view. Here, I select the project base point and the offset from surface. This means when the point will have a certain height relative to the point I click on. For example, I can specify here that the point will be 1 meter higher than the point I click on. I do the same thing with Absolute and say that the height of the point I click on is 4 meters. Now I click here and you can see that it creates the point 4 meters above the 00 point. If you need to consider lines on the topography surface as the basis for creating a slope in addition to points, click on the Add Split Line option. Here, I click on Add Split Line and tell it to create a slope line from this point to this point. It creates a line from this point to this point, and also a line from here to here. Whenever you need to edit your topography lines, simply select the topography, click on Modify Sub-Element. Immediately after the points and lines turn green, you can click on any of them to change their elevation and coordinates. For example, I select list line, I press delete on the keyboard and it's deleted. If you want to change all the changes made to the topography to the default, just click on the Reset Shape option here, which will return the topography to its original state. One of the most important features added to Revit 2024 topographies is the ability to layer. As you know, we previously had layering in walls, floors, and roofs, and now in Revit 2024, this feature has also been added to topography. Simply select the topography, and if you enter the Edit Type section, you can consider layering on your topography in the Structure Edit section. Before Revit 2024, we had to create a main topography using the Toposurface tool. Then, using the floor, we would slip it on the topography using the Modify Sub-Element tool, and finally, we would have a toposurface from the combination of floor and topography. In Revit 2024, all these options have been integrated into a single tool called Toposolid. This means you can have both topography and layer information in one place. You can also easily change the dimensions, thickness, and even materials of the layers. Another important feature of Toposolid in Revit 2024 is the addition of structural thickness to topographies. Previously, in older versions of Revit, we were forced to see a topography without thickness. If we wanted to add thickness to it, we had to activate the section box. We would give it a thickness to see a graphical thickness on our topography. However, this was purely schematic. As soon as you deactivate the section box, it would disappear and was not very useful. Revit 2024 introduces a new feature called structural thickness. When you activate the section box and move it inwards, you can see the layers of the topography in this section. Another important change in Revit 2024 is the removal of the split surface and building pad options from the Massing and Site tab. In previous versions of Revit, we used the building pad tool to create an excavation on the surface of the topography. In Revit 2024, we can do this by creating a void on the topography surface. As you know, voids can be created using the modeling place. So I open the modeling place, I go to the Toposurface section, and here, using the Void Forms tool, we can select Void Extrusion or any other mode, and by drawing a specific boundary, we can separate a specific volume of soil from the topography surface. As you know, when we choose Void Extrusion, we can adjust its height in the extrusion start and extrusion end sections. Alternatively, we can use the two arrows to adjust the height. Next, we go to the Modify tab and use the Cut tool to click on the topography surface and then on the void surface to create the excavation volume. If I select my topography here and click Modify Sub-Elements and specify a height of, for example, 5 meters, you can see that this amount of excavation is also considered based on the height of the sloping surface and changes in line with it. We can also do this using the In Place Mass tool in the Massing and Site tab. Simply click on the In Place Mass option and create a specific volume using the Rectangle tool or other drawing modes. Now select the drawing. From the Create Form section, click Void Form. Adjust its height. Finally, go to the Modify tab and use the Cut tool to easily subtract this topography from the void volume to create a desired surface on the topography volume. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Another important point about the Toposolid tool in Revit 2024 is the method of splitting the topography surface. As you know, in previous versions of Revit, we used the split surface tool for this purpose. However, in Revit 2024, this capability has been transferred to the split element tool. To split a topography surface in Revit 2024, create a topography surface, go to the Modify tab and select the Split Element tool. Click on the topography surface. The Draw dialog box will open. Draw the desired split line on the surface. Click Finish to split the surface. Now I can make my own changes to this part of the topography. For example, I can click on the Paint option here and assign a specific material to this surface. Or I can select that line and delete it to remove that part of my topography. Sometimes I may need a split on the topography surface to be temporary and not cut the entire surface. In these cases, I need to go to the Modify tab, click on Split Face in the Geometry section. Then, click on the Topography surface, and simply use the tools in the Draw section to separate specific section, exactly aligned with the topography surface. I click on Finish and I can see that this section is completely separated for me. Now I can click on the Paint option and assign any material I want to eat. Another important feature introduced for Toposolid in Revit 2024 is the Subdivision tool. In previous versions of Revit, to isolate a specific section of your topography and assign it a desired material, you could use the Subdivision tool. Simply select the subregion, choose the specific area on the topography, and finally assign a material from the Material section. In Revit 2024, after creating your Toposolid, simply select it. In the Modify tab, under the Subdivide panel, you can perform the same actions you used to do with subregions in older versions using this tool. I'll select this section and draw a rectangle. As you can see, the same subregion surface is added to us here as a subdivide, with the difference that the subdivide used in Toposolid has a subdivide height option in addition to the material. Note that you cannot enter 0 or negative value for subdivide height. This number must be positive, and if you want its height to be at the same level as the topography, simply set it to a very small number, such as 0.001. You can see that its surface is almost at the same level as the topography. Another important feature considered for the Toposolid tool is the ability to host the topographic surface with objects that are placed on its surface. Now, if I select an object from the Architect tab, Component section, and click on the topographic surface, you will notice that the object is completely sunken into the ground. To be able to place it as a host on the topographic surface, simply select the object, hit Edit Family, and enter the object's structure environment. Once you're in the object structure environment, click on the Family category and Parameters option. Uncheck the Always Vertical option and click on the Work Plane Based option. Hit OK and click Load into Project to add it to the surface of my object. As you can see, this object is also placed completely in the line with the topographic surface. And if I hit the Space key and change the orientation of the object, you will see that it will be completely in line with the topographic surface at any point on the surface. Another significant feature added to the Toposolid tool is the ability to cut the topography surface using wall and foundation tools. Just have a wall and foundation on the topography surface. Now, if you go to the Modify tab and click on the Cut tool, click once on the topography surface and once on the wall surface, and this time once on the topography surface and once on the foundation surface. Now, if I select the wall and foundation and hide when, you will notice that the topography surface is completely cut in the part where we had the wall and foundation. If you pay attention to the topographic surface, you will notice a series of lines on the surface that are called primary contours and secondary contours in Revit. To adjust the number of these lines and the distance between them, you can select the topography, go to Edit Type. In the Graphics section, you will find the Contour Display option. Click on Edit. As I mentioned, in this section, you have control over the primary and secondary contour lines. In the Range Type section, you can specify whether the spacing of the contour lines should be a range of numbers or a single value. In the Internal section, you can specify the distance between the lines. The smaller this number, the closer the lines will be to each other, and vice versa. For example, if I set the secondary contours value to 0.3 here and apply it, you will notice that the distance between the secondary contour lines becomes very small.
To hide contour lines completely, go to the Contour Display section, uncheck the boxes for both options, click Apply. You will see that the contour lines are no longer displayed. To convert a topographic file in AutoCAD to a Toposolid in Revit, go to the Masking and Site tab. Under the Toposolid subheading, click Create from Import. You have two options here. If you have already imported the AutoCAD file into Revit, click Create from CAD. Then, click on the topographic surface. If you have not imported the AutoCAD file yet, click Create from File. Then, browse to and select the AutoCAD file.
Click OK. As you can see, I was able to easily convert an AutoCAD file to a Toposolid file in Revit. If I change the display mode to textures, you can see that it has also applied all the layers to the AutoCAD file. However, if instead of an AutoCAD file, you have a set of points prepared by a surveyor and provided to you as a CSV file, which is a type of file that can be exported from Excel, simply click the Toposurface option, select the Create from Import option. Here, click the Create from CSV and open the CSV file you have on your system to instantly convert it to a Toposurface file in Revit software. Another important point about the Toposurface tool in Revit 2024 is that when you open a project that was worked on in previous versions of Revit in Revit 2024, if you have a topography in that project, it will usually be imported into Revit 2024 without thickness. It also doesn't have any layering because we didn't have this capability in previous versions. Therefore, we don't have layering in the Edit Type section, and it doesn't have any thickness either. To convert a topography to a Toposolid, follow with the steps. Select the topography. In the Modify panel, click Generate Toposolid. In the Toposolid dialog box, specify the base level or level of the topography. In the Family Type section, a name has been considered for the Toposolid. Click OK. The topography will be converted to a Toposolid. The error message indicates that you're using an older version of Revit that does not have the Subdivide option. The Subdivide option is a new feature that was added in a later version. As a result, the software cannot recognize the regions that were created using the subregion option. To fix this error, you need to delete the instance of the topography that you imported. The topography will be replaced with a Toposolid. You can now layer the Toposolid, assign materials to it, and edit it using the tools that were introduced in the previous section. The regions that were deleted using the delete instance command can be redrawn using the subdivide tool. Once you have created a Toposolid, you can select it and click the display button to view it in different modes. For example, the generic mode displays the Toposolid as a bare terrain. The grassland mode adds a layer of grass to the surface of the Toposolid. The path mode displays the Toposolid as a paved or dirt path. The water mode displays the Toposolid as a lake, pond, or other body of water. You can also customize the setting for each display mode. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. Have a good day.